How keen is your rank? Just the Facts is an episode of the Degrees of Freedom Project video on chemical and thermal principles. Definitions and additional details can be found in the webpage linked in the description. This episode explains how to convert temperatures and temperature intervals among Kelvin, degrees ranking, degrees Fahrenheit, and degrees Celsius. Another video is Furlongs per fortnight a thing, explains how to convert a measured or calculated quantity from one set of units to another for most everything except temperatures. A third video, The Most Annoying Equation Conversion, explains how to convert an equation as opposed to a calculated or measured quantity from one set of units to another. Again, the links are in the description. Over the years, there has been a lot of temperature scales. The original Celsius scale was upside down. Water boiled at 0 degrees Celsius and froze at 100 degrees Celsius. The four that are currently in use are Kelvin, Celsius, Fahrenheit, and Rankine. Kelvin and Rankine are both absolute scales starting at the same absolute zero, at which all particle motion stops. Rankine is used when you are doing calculations such as the ideal gas law and you want to work in American engineering units. For example, if you're measuring temperatures in degrees Fahrenheit and you want to use the ideal gas law, convert the temperatures to Rankine. Think of Kelvin as the Celsius scale shifted to start at absolute zero, and Rankine as the Fahrenheit scale shifted to start at absolute zero. Rankine and Fahrenheit share the same relationship as Kelvin and Celsius. You can convert between Kelvin and Rankine by simple multiplication. Conversion among the other combinations requires an addition or subtraction as well. It's important to distinguish between a temperature and a temperature interval. Pause the video and ask yourself, what is the difference between temperature and temperature intervals? If you said a temperature is a single temperature of an object and the temperature interval is the difference between two temperatures, you are correct. If you are using a temperature sensor, such as a thermometer, to measure something, you are measuring a temperature. For example, the freezing and boiling points of water at atmospheric pressure are both fixed temperatures. They are 32 degrees Fahrenheit and 212 degrees Fahrenheit respectively. If you are measuring the difference between two temperatures, you are measuring a temperature interval. For example, the difference between the freezing and boiling points of water is 180 degrees Fahrenheit. Temperatures, as opposed to temperature intervals, have to be converted from one scale to another by the full conversion equations, often with addition or subtraction instead of just multiplication. Converting temperature intervals requires single multiplication or division without any addition or subtraction. It is important to determine which is which. Let's first go through the equation for converting one temperature to another, beginning with Celsius. To convert from degrees Celsius to degrees Fahrenheit, multiply by 9/5 and then add 32. To convert from degrees Celsius to Kelvin, add 273.15. To convert from degrees Celsius to degrees Rankine, convert first to Kelvin and then to Rankine, or multiply by 9/5 and then add 491.67. To convert from degrees Fahrenheit to degrees Celsius, subtract 32 and then multiply by 5/9. To convert from degrees Fahrenheit to Kelvin, first convert to Celsius and then to Kelvin. There is a formula for single addition, but it requires you to memorize 255.37. Not worth it in our opinion. To convert from Fahrenheit to Rankine, add 459.67. To convert from Kelvin to degrees Fahrenheit, either convert to Celsius and then to Fahrenheit, or multiply by 9/5 and then subtract 459.67. To convert from Kelvin to degrees Celsius, subtract 273.15. To convert Kelvin to degrees Rankine, multiply by 9/5. To convert from degrees Rankine to degrees Fahrenheit, subtract 459.67. To convert from degrees Rankine to Kelvin, multiply by 5/9. To convert from degrees Rankine to degrees Celsius, either convert to Kelvin and then degrees Celsius, the easiest way, or subtract 491.67 and then multiply it by 5/9. A table with the temperature conversions all on one page is linked on the website. To convert temperature intervals, rather than temperatures, from one scale to another, multiply by 1 in the case of degrees Celsius to Kelvin, Kelvin to degrees Celsius, degrees Rankine to degrees Fahrenheit, and degrees Fahrenheit to degrees Rankine. Multiply by 5/9 in the case of degrees Rankine to Kelvin, degrees Fahrenheit to Kelvin, degrees Rankine to degrees Celsius, and degrees Fahrenheit to degrees Celsius. Multiply by 9/5 in the case of Kelvin to degrees Fahrenheit, degrees Celsius to degrees Fahrenheit, Kelvin to degrees Rankine, and degrees Celsius to degrees Rankine. Now for some examples, what is 5 degrees Celsius in Kelvin, degrees Fahrenheit, and degrees Rankine? Pause the video and try to work it out yourself. Now that you've tried it on your own, let's work through the conversions. Remember, we are first starting with degrees Celsius and want to get to Kelvin, so we must add 273.15, meaning that 5 degrees Celsius is equal to 278.15 Kelvin. Next, we are starting with degrees Celsius and want to get to degrees Fahrenheit, so we must multiply by 9/5 and add 32, meaning that 5 degrees Celsius is equal to 41 degrees Fahrenheit. Finally, we are starting with degrees Celsius and want to get to degrees Rankine. Remember that when converting from degrees Celsius to degrees Rankine, we prefer to first convert to Kelvin, which was found earlier, 278.15 Kelvin, and then convert to degrees Rankine by multiplying by 9/5, which gives us 500.67 degrees Rankine. Now, for one more example, the heat capacity of an object is the amount of heat energy required to raise the temperature of a unit mass or unit mole by 1 degree in the temperature unit of interest. We have a formula for the heat capacity of liquid acetone in units of kilojoules per mole degree Celsius with the temperature in the formula in degrees Celsius. We want the formula for the heat capacity C sub P in kilojoules per moles Kelvin with the temperature in Kelvin, kilojoules per mole degrees Rankine with the temperature in degrees Rankine, and kilojoules per mole degrees Fahrenheit with the temperature in degrees Fahrenheit. Note that because of the temperature unit appears in two places, the T and the heat capacity, we have to convert in both places. The full procedure for converting an equation with dimensions is discussed at length in the most annoying equation conversion video. If this example seems confusing, go watch that video and come back. We start by looking for temperatures and temperature intervals, because they need to be converted differently. Is the T in C sub P a temperature interval or a temperature? How about T in the formula? Pause the video to think about this, and play when you're ready to check your answers. The left side of the equation, the heat capacity, C sub P, is used only with the change in temperature or a temperature interval, in other words, per degree Celsius. So we must convert it with the temperature interval formula. The right side uses the actual temperature, T, so we must convert it with the temperature formula. First, let's convert from Celsius to Kelvin. As explained in the most annoying equation conversion video, we convert the heat capacity, C sub P, in kilojoules per mole Kelvin to kilojoules per mole degree Celsius, and as a temperature interval by multiplying by 1 Kelvin per degree Celsius. We convert T in Kelvin to T in degrees C by subtracting 273.15, and we plug this in, getting this equation. We then simplify and get this equation. Now, let's convert from Celsius to Rankine. We convert the heat capacity, C sub P, in kilojoules per mole degree Rankine to kilojoules per mole degrees Celsius as a temperature interval, by multiplying by 9 degrees Rankine per 5 degrees Celsius. We convert T and Rankine to degrees Celsius by subtracting 491.67, and then multiplying by 5/9, and we plug this in, getting this equation. We then simplify and get this equation. Now, let's convert from Celsius to Fahrenheit. We convert the C sub P in kilojoules per mole degrees Fahrenheit to kilojoules per mole degrees Celsius as a temperature interval by multiplying by 9 degrees Fahrenheit for 5 degrees Celsius. We convert T in degrees Fahrenheit to T in degrees Celsius by subtracting 32 and then multiplying by 5/9, and we plug this in, getting this equation. We then simplify and get this next equation. Obviously, it's probably best to express the coefficients in scientific notation. I left them as decimal fractions to make the comparison easier. Take a moment to double check the conversions by plugging in some temperatures such as 15 degrees Celsius, which is 59 degrees Fahrenheit, 288.15 Kelvin, and 518.67 degrees Rankine into each equation in turn. The degrees Celsius and the Kelvin equation should give the same values of heat capacity, C sub P. The degrees Rankine and degrees Fahrenheit equation should give the same values of C sub P. And the degree Rankine or degrees Fahrenheit value should be 5/9 of the degrees Celsius or Kelvin value. Why is it 5/9 and not 9/5 or 1? The takeaways from this video are: 1. There are 4 types of units used to describe temperature: Kelvin, Rankine, Fahrenheit, and Celsius. 2. The conversions of temperatures are different from the conversion of temperature intervals. 3. The temperatures each can be converted from one to another using multiplication and often addition and subtraction. Conversion between Rankine and Kelvin only requires multiplication. 4. All of the temperature interval conversions require multiplication by 9/5, 5/9, or 1. Thanks for watching. This video was brought to you by the DOFPro team.